This is what will happen if we continue to use AI. Like roots, AI has spread in every sector we know today: education, art, healthcare, and now it has bored its fangs at the animation sector for better or for worse. The short video is to see how something like AI could actually save this industry, but at the same time destroy it for good. We already know how the Japanese animation industry and pretty much the entire work culture of Japan has become the very epitome of modern-day slavery. The effects are just magnified for the animators who, like mindless robots, draw every frame hunched over at their desks for hours on end, rarely seeing their families nor getting recognition for their work, and burning out decades before the estimated end of their careers. For people like us, the consumers, we usually give ourselves the full right to judge these animators, myself included, as if we could do any better. And when news like implementing AI in anime makes rounds, we, or these fans, are usually first in line to call out unethical behavior, that AI should not be given any more power than it already has. But let's stop and think for a second. Instead of letting AI animate or voice act for the show, why not just let it handle all the tedious and grueling parts of the animation, such as in-between animation and backgrounds, and spend time doing creative work yourself?
No shit, Sherlock.
Drastically cutting the workload and letting the animators have the wondrous, almost magical work-life balance. In an ideal world, that could work, but let's not turn a blind eye to the true enemies of humanity, the reason why these industries are suffering in the first place. It's the people who leverage machines with only one goal in mind: cutting costs and maximizing profits regardless of its ethical viability. And so begins the turning of hamster wheels, feeding off of human ambitions and catering to the very lonely and prone to use character.ai audience. Moving on, when it comes to animation as a whole, AI was first used by Disney in the 90s to automate tedious tasks of creating in-between animation, using a software called Disney's Caps. Although the system cannot be called AI according to the modern use of the term, it paved the way for machine-assisted animation used today. The use of AI in anime, however, was fairly recent, with the earliest examples surfacing in the 2010s, mainly confined to populating cities or drawing forestscapes to save time. Fast forward to the late 2010s, and we got Netflix Japan releasing a show called The Dog and the Boy, after The Dog and the Girl came out, which used AI for backgrounds, which, to no surprise, led to plenty of controversies and, as you can imagine, fell on deaf ears. And now CGI and AI collaboration goes hand in hand with animation, with companies using AI to generate particle effects and for rotoscoping among others. We've seen examples of this with Studio Science Haru using digital-assisted animation for Dandadan, or Toei Animation using it for coloring, but only for low-profile shows like Irvan, which, if you're wondering, was just an experimental short anime. You can tell from the sparing use of AI that companies are naturally wary of its implications and its reception with the general public. They don't want to be butchered online by the keyboard warriors out of Twitter, now do they? Shoji Kawamori, the creator of the Macross franchise and a veteran mangaka, recently mentioned that AI will definitely be used in animation despite all the controversies. Kawamori mentioned that although it cannot reproduce emotions, it can still be tasked with the manual labor of in-betweening, which has been dubbed as the toughest, most grunting part of animation. He says that it's perfectly fine to use AI for this, while the human animators can work on the creative aspects such as making the keyframes. The very reason AI is even brought up here is because of the lack of staff, budgetary and time restrictions that come with demand for animation. Kawamori says that it may help us become more efficient, but at the cost of man's creativity. The dark era where companies would prefer AI-produced animation over man-made frames, thus preventing potentials of future Miyazakis or Kamamuris from ever blooming, where cheap replicability and massive production of AI-generated content would become the norm. Hayao Miyazaki, who I doubt I need to introduce, was asked what his thoughts on the use of AI in animation were, to which he bluntly replied, "I am utterly disgusted, and that the use of AI is an insult to life itself." He also went on to say that the end is upon us, and humans are losing faith in themselves. Miyazaki, known for his breathtaking art and direction in animations, found the very concept of AI to be revolted, that it mirrored everything a human being should not be, that a machine that lacks human emotions should not be allowed to portray it, and that it's nothing but a mockery to the beauty and pain of a human being. But, unfortunately for him, the advent of AI is like an inevitable wave that has already come to pass. An anime using 95% AI cuts was recently greenlit called Twins Hinahima by a studio named Kaka Creations. This was done by letting AI convert their hand-drawn key visuals into animation that were later manually edited to be bearable to look at. They dubbed this supportive AI, stating the main goal here is to reduce animator workload, nothing more, nothing less. I'm sure in one way or another, we've all suffered at the hands of AI, in the sense that our creative sides have taken a hit, and as we continue to rely on AI, we slowly but surely part with the only thing that made us unique, our ability to think. Things that cannot be defined or summarized statistically, such as an artist's vision or intuition, are the first to go down the drain when over-reliance on AI becomes the norm, and Miyazaki, like many others, called it out for what it really was, instead of opening up or trying to see the good in it. Animation Guild, which is a professional union for animation artists, technicians, and writers in the US, reported that more than 100,000 jobs in the fields of film and animation would vanish from existence within 3 years. It is also predicted that with the recent massive shift to AI production, studios will also be able to save millions, which would further deteriorate the need for human touch. English voice actors in Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail have also gone on strike demanding protection from unauthorized AI replications of their voices, which is why some characters have voices while the others are just flapping their mouths in many of the recent quests. On a more positive note, AI could never replicate human beings or understand their emotions. But then again, AI could easily generate thousands of cheap isekai copies that could spread like wildfire. And if characters on character.ai could gain such traction, what makes you think anime, fully run and produced by AI, cannot achieve such a feat? So we mustn't be so gullible all the time and learn to keep AI at bay. Though that's a topic for another day. Right now, let's look at the bright side of AI. A knife can be used to cook or kill, depending on who's wielding it. Authorization, regulations, enforced laws, and copyrights in the realm of AI are some things that can be used to reap its benefits while confining the harm. You don't kill an animal that misbehaves, you put it on a leash instead. I could have used a better analogy, but you get it. With how tight the demands of the higher-ups get, so does the need to lift the time constraints. Mappa employees have publicly complained about how the top dogs only cared about the end results and seldom about improving their work environment. They were made to animate Jujutsu Kaisen 0, an anime feature film that would under regular and humane circumstances take 2 to 3 years to make, in a mere 4 months. Episodes were also animated only days before their release, and animators would go on Twitter and post about unaliving themselves with how detrimental their situation had gotten. If that doesn't result in the company getting sued, then I do not know what does. Either that or the animators choose life, and escape from the supposed hellhole that has been created. For these animators, dealing with the unimaginable deadlines, the idea of AI taking up the grueling and repetitive tasks while still being able to work and creatively manage wouldn't be such a bad deal now, would it? Although its reliable incorporation is still years away, processes or techniques such as CGI and digital-assisted animation that are being taken up by studios now should not be frowned upon, as they are undeniably the future of animation. As long as AI is limited to being a tool, its role in the animation industry isn't all depressing or apocalyptic as it's often labeled. Some people love to sit back and relax and let AI do their work. They can be replaced as they should be, but those who continue to be actively involved in the creative processes, for them it can serve as a tool to reduce burnout and improve creativity. Animators, artists, and writers, or just creators, could use the newfound time to go plus ultra and create unique stories instead of recycling the same old isekai garbage with dissertations for names over and over again. So yes, just as AI is dangerous, it is also, for some, life-saving. The key is how you control it and what degree of interference you allow it. After all this yapping, I'm sure one thing has been firmly established. It's that money-hungry, greedy grubs will always exist, finding new ways to multiply their earnings by any means possible. Throughout humanity's history, they've exploited call centers, fake jobs, pyramid and phishing schemes, and even charity scams, and now they've set their sights on AI. How can I exploit this to scam people, rake in millions and hog all the credit, is probably what they're thinking. Whether it's some individual scheming from their mother's basement, or a suited and booted organizational elite, sipping on the blood, sweat, and tears of their employees while deciding which pizza company to call for the next party, just before laying off half their workforce. It's all the same greed in action, just in different fonts. That might have gotten a little too specific, but when it comes to AI in the anime industry, with strict regulations coupled with punishable laws, employee protection rights, and ethical practices, things wouldn't spiral out of control nearly as badly as some fear. As fancy as those terms sound, they're all useless without implementation, so who am I even kidding? Anyhow, the environment, which we all care about, intellectual and control concerns are understandable to have, but at the end of the day, they're all just regulatory concerns gone haywire. After all, once we start experimenting, There's no stopping us from knowing what lies ahead. And as humans, curiosity runs in our blood. So will we be cats that allow our intrusive desires to take control and allow this endearing curiosity to bind us for years to come? Well, like all things, in time lies the answer we seek. Thank you for sticking around this long and let me know what you think about all this fiasco. Bye.